Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. Having a little coffee here this morning. Have a little prep chat with you guys. Want to say hello to all the people out there that have recognized me on the street in the last week. I don't get a lot of people that recognize me from my YouTube channel, but this week I did have some folks say, "Hey, Modern Refugee." Had a nice little conversation with them, so I kind of wanted to acknowledge that. Show you guys something here. One of my relatives sent me this, and it belonged to another relative of mine that's been passed away a long time, but they sent me some Crocs that were in the family back in the day, and that's what they look like. And I always have a use for Crocs, and specifically these Crocs were used to hone up the knives. And I don't know if you guys ever seen my video way back in the day where I talked about knife sharpening. That's one of the things that I showed was a crock. Now, my mom always had a small crock, about this size, maybe slightly smaller. She had it on the stove, and whenever she wanted to use a knife, she would run the edge of that knife over this crock, and that would deburr the knife, and then she could use it, to cut up meat or roast, whatever. But yeah, anyway, they thought I would like these Crocs because, I am the way I am, and they sent them. So I just wanted to show those to you guys. Have a little prep chat with you guys here this morning over my coffee. I seen a few things on the news that I thought were sort of disturbing. And the one was that drone attack that took place over in Russia. It's really amazing what technology is doing nowadays, and how destructive it can be. And with the simplicity of those drones and that kind of thing, I am really surprised that there hasn't been something like that here in the States, and I hope nothing like that ever does take place. But it just goes to show you that if people want to get into your country and cause problems, they can. And that is kind of a perfect example. And then the other one that is really was sort of alarming to me, they touched on it on the news a little bit, was those foreign nationals that were coming in from the large Asian country with the mold spores or whatever they were that could, decimate our crops. And they were coming to Michigan, and I don't know if a lot of people know, Michigan has a lot of agriculture. I mean, we're not like Iowa and Nebraska and, South Dakota and, southern Minnesota and stuff, but we have a lot of agriculture here. And some of the more prominent, agribusiness and agricultural universities like Michigan State is here as well, although these people were going to a U of M, University of Michigan. Something like that, if that got released, especially in areas that produce seeds. Now, our area here actually has seed production. So if something like that got out into seed production and, the seeds were compromised and then that went on to the next year, that would take a long time for that to sort of manifest and sort of to get into your food distribution system, so to speak. That wouldn't be an immediate thing. That would be a slow, patient, over time collapse, basically. And we know that our adversaries across the Pacific, they like that type of problems, let's put it that way. And that really concerned me because I could see where something like that here in my own area would be a massive problem. Now, because of my work, I go out and I deliver stuff to agribusinesses and into large dairy operations and that kind of stuff. And you would not believe the precautions that these places take to protect the food supply and to protect the animals there, even though it's what I personally don't care for some of the ways that the animals are treated in these places, but they have a really sort of like a lockdown procedure on these these agribusinesses and these dairy operations, huge signs when you walk in. You have to sign in case there's some type of pathogen that gets out. They don't allow you in certain areas. They don't allow you past certain places. The stuff where they do the milking and whatnot, that's all off limits, except the personnel that are in the right attire, and it just goes on and on and on. But that was the first thing when I first started delivering to these places. I noticed the large, this is a bio-contained, unit. Nobody past a certain point. All deliveries are left outside. Yada yada yada, and that's something. I've got subscribers from all over the U.S. and all over the world, and that's something I don't know if you guys have ever seen or noticed, but that is something that there is a lot of precaution that takes place because of things like this, not only natural stuff, but also, man-made problems. And I wanted to kind of throw that out there and make you guys aware of that. I did have some beans that got eaten off by the rabbits, which is perfectly normal. And this is why you never plant all of your seeds when you're starting a garden. You want to save some of your seed stock back in case something happens to your first planting. And it's still the beginning of June here, so I still have time to get some beans in the ground. So I went ahead, pre-sprouted them. That's another thing that you can do with beans that works really well. Make sure that those seeds that you're putting in the ground are viable, and I put them in the ground so I have another planting. We also harvested our first harvest of strawberries last night, and none of them made it to the refrigerator. We ate all of them, and they were awesome. They were beautiful June strawberries. They were all about that big around. If you've ever had a strawberry that you've grown yourself, it will be absolutely blown away compared to what a strawberry is that you buy in the store. And if you really want the best strawberry jam, I'm a fiend for strawberry jam. If you really want the best strawberry jam, you need to find somebody that's growing strawberries themselves and get them at that peak of ripeness that gives you the best strawberry jam flavor. And my potatoes, the red ones especially, are basically all in blossom. So that's really good. Zucchini is up. The garlic and the onions are doing great. Cucumbers are coming up slow, but they'll catch on. And then my peppers, tomatoes, that kind of stuff is all doing good. Peas are all in blossom, so I expect peas here rather shortly. I want to show you guys something. I couldn't find you an actual example anymore, and the one that I had here, not sure really what happened to it, but it's a row marker, and Mom would always use a row marker because she had a large garden. I have several small gardens here because of kind of how where my house is situated and stuff, because of the sunlight and whatever, but Mom had large gardens. I mean, like quarter-acre gardens. She had a couple of them, and she was really she would pay a lot of attention to the spacing of the plants, and that's something that you don't hear a lot of people talk about when they come, gardening and prepping and stuff. You can overcrowd a garden. The plants need a certain amount of space to grow and to flourish. So she would use a row marker, and this is what the diagram that I drew. This is kind of the top and then the side, and what it was is the handle would be here, and she would take this and she would walk a straight line, and then that would mark the rows out. And she would do basically two different sizes. She would do a 36-inch row, and that was for basically everything like potatoes, tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, pumpkins, anything that would grow out, vine out, whatever, would go in a 36-inch row. And then stuff like onions, garlic that were more contained, she would put in an 18-inch row. So she had a couple of these. She had one for 18 inches and she had one for 36 inches. And they would just take a cross piece, they would put a handle on it, they would put two braces, and then they would put two of these small points, 36 inches apart on it. And if it was 18 inches, they would put another one in the center, and then they would basically use that to mark the rows, and that way the rows were always straight, but then it gave the plants enough space to spread out. And that's something that you just don't see anymore. I guess they just take it for granted that people will plant the stuff at the right, distance apart. And it will show you, like on the seed starts, it will show you on the little tags that are in there, the distance apart that they should be from other plants. And that's another thing that is beneficial if you're buying starts. And then if you want to, propagate that seed or whatever to the next year, you want to be able to make some notes on that so you have that information. But I just want to do this little prep chat with you guys here today while I'm getting my stuff around. I wanted to show you guys those Crocs, talk about those couple of those little world events that were kind of disconcerting to me. I am going to go out today and I am going to grab some fuel. I did use up quite a bit of fuel here because of my power equipment. I am going to go out and replace that fuel with what's called rec fuel, and I did do a video on that a ways back, but I'll give you a little recap here. Rec fuel is fuel that has a higher octane and has no ethanol in it, and ethanol will draw moisture out of the air. It is typically only good for a certain period of time. Yes, you can put the stabilizers and the treatments in it. That helps to a point, but actually non-ethanol fuel will actually sit with untreated longer than any type of fuel with ethanol in it. So when I replace my fuel, I always replace it with rec fuel, and then I will put some stabilizer in it on top. That way I basically have a double redundancy on how long that fuel can set. But I am going to grab a couple of my cans here that I got empty, and I'm going to refill them. That's something that everybody should always keep in mind if you have any type of power equipment. You know, power equipment is what runs rural areas. I've said that before too, so that is one of the things that you can do. Any type of power equipment, generators, chainsaws, this kind of stuff, if you use too much ethanol fuel in it and they sit, they'll gum up, mess up the carburetor, and you're going to have problems, and that will prevent some of that problems if you use non-ethanol rec fuel. But anyway, this is Modern Refugee. Appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys get some information, some entertainment out of my video, as always, here over my coffee and chores, and you guys have a good one.